retrofan.com.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Retro Affair. Today we are going to talk about a very particular and interesting handheld gaming console, the WonderSwan. It's difficult not to start by talking about Gunpei Yokoi. If you remember, we talked about him during the Game Boy video, link here, because he was not only the creator of the Game & Watch before that, but also the co-creator of the Game Boy and the Game Boy Pocket and then the Virtual Boy. After leaving Nintendo in 1996, after 31 years of service, he then formed a new company called Koto. From there, he led the creation of yet another portable console, the mighty Bandai WonderSwan. The WonderSwan was a Japanese-only handheld console released in 1999. Unfortunately, after Gunpei Yokoi passed away in 1997. And here you can see a Gashapon version, a mini version, a micro version actually, of the WonderSwan Blue, in this case, just like the one I have. But this console followed Gunpei's design philosophy that we saw first in the Game Boy video to utilize mature technology for a cheaper device, such as the black and white screen without illumination and an amazing power consumption, this time even with just one AA battery. And one design choice I really like is the fact that you inserted the battery directly in the battery cover and not in the console itself. While recording this video, my WonderSwan Color Blue version decided to stop working, which is a shame because it was also the only modded WonderSwan with backlight that I had, so for the rest of the video I had to use the normal WonderSwan Color original display, so you can also see the original experience of playing. The WonderSwan launched in 1999 as a monochrome and then was followed in 2000 by the WonderSwan Color, which is the version of the console I have here, and maintained backward compatibility, by the way. And then in 2002 Bandai released one more iteration, the Swan Crystal, which has a much better sharp TFT LCD display. Unfortunately for Bandai, in 2001 Nintendo released that Game Boy Advanced that killed the competition and put a final nail to the WonderSwan line and series. So here today you just see the WonderSwan Color because that's the console I got. I don't have the first WonderSwan, or I don't have the later Swan Crystal released later on. I don't have a lot of games from the WonderSwan, and in this video you can basically see my whole collection, but I chose what games to collect following my interests rather than the best games of the platform. So these games align with my interest in terms of anime and horror mangas and stories. You will see what I mean, and here's the first. Tekken Card Challenge. This is one of the more surprising titles on the WonderSwan because it's a spin-off of Namco's popular fighting game series, Tekken, but it's a turn-based card battling game featuring the cast of Tekken 3 reimagined in card form, a bit like a hybrid of a fighting game and a collectible card game.
Switch on! Ringu Infinity 8月10日発売ワンダーゲートでも
I told you about my love for Japanese horror, right? So I had to have also this other visual novel, Ringu Infinity, from 2000. This visual novel expands the universe of Koji Suzuki's famous horror saga more into an interactive form, and it's not an adaptation of the movie, but it's more like an interactive side story. And here, being a visual novel, rather than relying on action or jump scares, leans heavily into the psychological tension and presents a narrative-driven experience where you basically uncover fragments of the mystery, tied of course to the cursed videotape mythology. Much of the gameplay so to speak, revolves around reading, investigating and making choices, creating almost a novel-like rhythm that feels surprisingly mature for a handheld of that era. And actually I think that the limitations of the hardware work in favor of the atmosphere, right? With sparse visuals, restrained sounds, design. There's a lot of imagination to apply. This is from a time where the Ringu or Ring had already reshaped the Japanese horror culture. So after the novel from 1991 and especially the movie adaptation from 1998, this became a franchise phenomenon. So if you are a fan of the series, you really have to own it.
Densha de Go ポケットサイズで新登場。ワンダースワン用電車で GO 発売。タイト
Densha de Go always been a big fan of this train simulation series, especially because it's so well done that it reminds me of really being in Japan. And this was one of the launch titles, Densha de Go for the WonderSwan from 1999, the famous train simulation by Taito. As usual, you become a train conductor on various different Japanese rail lines, managing speed, schedules, passenger satisfaction and more. There's also a Densha de Go 2 on the WonderSwan, but I don't have that. But it's a nice game. Obviously this version is way simpler than others, but I recommend it if you like the series.
MS Real Gundam Simulation MS vs
Mobile Suit Gundam from 1999. It's a portable war in a vertical view. So Bandai obviously has a Gundam license, and this is a unique strategy action hybrid released again in 1999. It took an uncommon approach for a Gundam game because it played in vertical orientation and featured a top-down perspective on the battlefield. Players would deploy mobile suits and command them in real-time battles with a fog of war effect covering unseen areas, essentially turning the WonderSwan into a mini command terminal. To celebrate Gundam on WonderSwan, Bandai released a limited edition console bundles, one in Federation Blue and one in Xeon Red, each packed with a version of this game. This special WonderSwan came themed with the Gundam logo, making them quite a collector items today. Super Robot Wars Compact 2. I have this. I couldn't play it because sadly it didn't work anymore. It's part of a trilogy and I love it because I'm a big fan of Japanese super robot, not only Gundams but Getter Robot, Mazinga, Grandizer, Titan 3, Zambot and many others, but sadly I cannot show you.
スーパーロボット対戦史上初完全3部作第1弾サポートアクションシステムがより戦いを熱くするスーパーロボット対戦コンパクト2史上激動編ワンプレス
I'm a big fan of Junji Ito, the famous Japanese mangaka, horror mangaka, way before it was cool, from many years ago. So I had to have these copies of Uzumaki, so the Spiral, also known as the Spiral. The first game, Denshi Kaikihen, was released in February 2000 and it's essentially a visual novel adaptation of the Uzumaki story, allowing players to experience the eerie tale of a town cursed by a spiral pattern. The game follows the character Kirie Goshima through key events of the manga, from the creepy spiral-infested houses to the infamous human snail and beyond. Both games have the cover art drawn obviously by Junji Ito himself, which makes these physical copies very collectible. The second game was released in March 2000, so just a month later. Noroi Simulation curse simulation. So offers a different take from the first game, and here there's a simulation strategy experience rather than a linear novel. Basically you move around the town, triggering spiral phenomena and infecting citizens with the curse. Honestly, more than the games, I really like to have these physical copies because of what they represent. In 2000, to have games based on a Japanese horror mangaka who at the time was quite of a niche. It's quite curious, it's quite peculiar, and it tells a lot about how particular this WonderSwan platform really was.
WonderSwan!
Terrors, a sound novel from 1999. The WonderSwan created a kind of niche in horror sound novel, and Terrors is a prime example. It's an anthology of interactive horror stories, 5 main scenarios in total, presented in a visual novel format. It's very interesting because the game leverages the WonderSwan's ability to be held vertically and uses the text and simple images to spin spooky tales. Each story in Terrors is unrelated, so it offers different settings and scares, from haunted and ghostly encounters to haunted inns. As a sound novel, it empathizes reading and making the occasional choice that can be led to different endings, good or bad. Perhaps in this case the lack of backlight even add something to the atmosphere. You know, imagine reading these tales under the covers with a flashlight, right?
彼女たちはまだ知らない。
まだ死にたくなかったのに。
この恐怖に染まれ、テラーズ2。WonderSwan!
Terrors 2 from 2000. So building up on the first game's concept, Terrors 2 arrived for the WonderSwan Colors. It's a collection again of horror visual novels, now with the 3 initial stories and 4th bonus stories unlocked after completing the others. Both the Terrors games have recently been fan translated, so now you can experience these 2 games, or better, these 2 sound novels. Clock Tower from 1999. It's a horror hide and seek. I love horror and horror games in particular, and Japanese horror games even more. Then I had to have this game. It's a port of the cult classic survival horror by Human Entertainment, Clock Tower, from the Super Famicom version, the point-and-click game for the monochrome WonderSwan. Closely adapts the 1995 Super Famicom original game, and players guide the young Jennifer Simpson, as usual, as she escapes from the Scissor Man, the creepy entity that follows her. It's all rendered in a very moody black and white graphics on this tiny screen, but remarkably the developers managed to capture the tense hide-and-seek gameplay and multiple endings even in this version. The game's scenario was inspired by the Italian horror film Phenomena by Dario Argento, which is why the Jennifer's character design resembles a young Jennifer Connelly, and while never released outside of Japan, this handheld version remains a unique way to experience Clock Tower, arguably one of the earliest portable horror games. Space Battleship Yamato, bringing a classic 1970s anime into this handheld form in 2001. This is a turn-based strategy game retelling the epic journey of the Yamato spaceship, known also as the Argo in Star Blazer, and player command the Yamato and its crew in grid-based battle across space, managing resourcing and tactical combat against the alien Gamilia's forces. The game follows the plot of the original Yamato series and the voyage from Earth to planet Iskandar to save humanity. It's a nice strategy game, there's a similar one for the PlayStation 1, but in particular if you are a fan of the space Battleship Yamato by Leiji Matsumoto, the great creator of many Japanese science fiction anime. As you can see, the aesthetic is very close to the original material, so if you are a fan, it's a must-have for sure. Doraemon, Pocket no Naka no Doraemon from 2001. It's about the robotic cat Doraemon that is a pop culture icon in Japan. And here Bandai brought him to the WonderSwan. It's a strategy virtual life game that lets a player interact with Doraemon's world on the go. The game features various mini activities and gadgets as Doraemon helps his friend Nobita through challenges. It's somehow similar to a digital board game mixed with pet simulation elements on a portable scale. It used color graphics and charming sprite art, and it was also back compatible, so it could run in grayscale obviously on the original WonderSwan. An interesting game if you like Doraemon. Ah yes, I also have a pachinko game, but nothing much to say about this. There are other games that I would like to have at some point for the WonderSwan, such as Pocket Fighter, so I'm a huge fan of Street Fighter, so I also like Pocket Fighter, and for the WonderSwan there's a nice conversion of that game. Definitely that's on my list. And there's also One Piece, there's a Conan, but also Saint Seiya, Gunpei, which is also dedicated to Gunpei Yokoi, Golden Axe, Ghosts and Goblins. So if you have any of these games, let me know whether this is a good list, good next steps in exploring the WonderSwan. So maybe in the future, together with Crystal Swan, there might be a part 2 of this video. Personally, I didn't even know that the WonderSwan existed in 1999, but I got to know it during my first trip to Japan in April 2001, and I still remember seeing this weird little console. I was quite puzzled by the many buttons, but also attracted by the clever design. I never really owned one, though, until much later, around 2010, I believe. But the WonderSwan feels like one of those consoles that existed slightly out of time. It never really tried to be global, never tried to be the most powerful, and never really chased any trends. It was quite efficient and deeply Japanese. For many of us, it wasn't part of our childhood, but discovering it today almost feels like uncovering a parallel history of gaming and handheld gaming in particular. One where imagination, battery life, and thoughtful design mattered more than raw power. And maybe that's why the WonderSwan still feels special, not as a missed opportunity, but as a reminder that there were many different ways the future could have looked. For me, the WonderSwan really reminds me of the first time I went to Japan, and that Japan of the early 2000s. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did recording it, and let me know if you have or had the WonderSwan and what is your favorite game for the platform. Thank you for watching. Visit retrofair.com if you want to read articles. See you next time.
3月4日を待ちきれない。あのチョコボの不思議なダンジョンが、デジタルモンスターが、ぷよぷよ2が、軍兵が、新世代携帯ゲームWonderSwan来る。WonderSwan 3月4日を待ちきれない。あの電車で GO が、ワンダースタジアムが、信長の野望が、SD ガンダムが、新世代携帯ゲームWonderSwan来る。WonderSwan